So we just got done learning about everything, the sun, the stars, the moon, the purpose of life. So we want to know some quick hits on what Dean's favorite things are.
Favorite things in the whole universe?
I don't know. So I'll kick you a couple questions. Let's do a couple either ors.
Okay.
And let's really get to know him here a little bit more, and this is going to be fun.
Okay.
So, a sunset or a sunrise?
Sunset, definitely. Yeah, I'm not a morning person, so I've seen thousands of sunsets, but not that many sunrises. And if I'm seeing a sunrise, that means I'm probably watching an eclipse or something like that, because I don't get up early for hardly anything. So definitely sunset. Yeah, if sunrise is happening, something's bad.
Something's wrong. The sun or the moon?
Man, that's a toughie. Man, that is really hard because, we're in the heart of winter right now here in Cincinnati, and you don't see the sun a lot. But those days where the sun comes out, I definitely have an appreciation for it. Moon is awesome at night, so I'm gonna go sun. I think sun. I think it's as much as I like the nighttime, and the moon is awesome in a telescope. Looks really cool to see the craters of the moon up close. Seeing it up there is awesome, but it also gets so bright that it blocks out some of the stars. Sun, I'm never not happy to see the sun. So yep.
If the Earth wasn't an option for us to live on, and we could survive on any other planet in our solar system, which planet would you choose?
I would pick a moon of Saturn to live on. There's these moons that are close to the rings of Saturn that are so cool that, like, if you'd live there, you'd see a Saturn rise, basically. You'd see the rings of Saturn rise above the horizon first, then you'd see the planet Saturn filling up a big part of the sky. That would be pretty surreal. So yeah, Saturn's, if there's a heaven out there, and if I'm going somewhere after my life, and if I have my choice, I'll go to the rings of Saturn.
The rings of Saturn.
Yep.
What are the rings of Saturn? What do they consist of?
So they're made of like individual bits of ice and rock and dust. So they're like little gravel, basically, that's going around the planet. It looks like a road or something, like a solid surface, but yeah, it's all individual little rocks. So yeah, I always had this kind of childlike fascination with the rings, and I would even tell, like, one of the only astronomy things I remember talking about when I was a kid was seeing those ring pictures of Saturn. And I told my teacher that I was someday I'm gonna fly the rings of Saturn and ride my bike around the rings. And she didn't have the heart to tell me that wasn't gonna happen. And she said, oh yeah, you'll do that someday. And but nope, wouldn't work out anyway, because it's all just bits of gravel and ice. But it does make one of the most beautiful sights it is hands down one of the best things to see in a telescope.
If you only were able to go to one place and you had to pick it, one place in one star in our universe.
Ooh, yeah.
What star would you go to?
If I had to go there and like live around that star, well, I do have a favorite star, but that wouldn't be the one I'd want to go to. My favorite star is Bellatrix, which is a star in constellation Orion. But that's only because it's really this deep blue color. But if I wanted to go to a really interesting place, I would go to either the star cluster, the Pleiades star cluster, lots of stars in your sky, or there's the star called Castor, that's a 6-star system, so you'd have 6 suns in your sky.
Wow.
That'd be pretty interesting.
6 in the sky.
Yeah.
How many planets are around? Do we know?
So we don't think there's any planets around that because it's too complicated how the stars are interacting with each other. Probably it'd be tough for planets to form, but astronomers are finding planets around multiple star systems. So you could have like you picture that scene in Star Wars where Luke is looking off into the distance and the 2 suns are setting.
Yeah.
There's places where that could actually happen.
So how do you think those 6 suns interact, those 6 stars? Do we know?
It would be crazy. So there are a couple of them are in pairs. I know that, and there's some that are going around the bigger system. But yeah, each one has its own little situation there. So, but it would be real complicated, your day-night cycle there. That's for sure.
If both planes and boats traveled at the same speed, which one would you rather travel on?
Oh man, shoot! You mean a slow plane or a fast
boat?
Because
you know they have hydrofoil boats that come up out of the water and they go really smooth.
Yeah, I'm not a big water guy, but I'm not a good plane guy either. If train was option, if they all move the same, I'd take the train. If I would go second, I guess I'd go plane, but I wouldn't like either one, either plane or boat.
With all the travel you've done, you have, that's fascinating. But what I love is, I guess the travel is so important to you that you just go by whatever means necessary.
I will take whatever I got to do. My first love is driving. I like road trips. I think it's so fascinating to see the country that way. And there's just, the open road does have this appeal to me, that's for sure. And so last fall, I was got named the astronomer in residence at the Grand Canyon, which meant I got to live and work at the Grand Canyon for a month, like right on the edge of the canyon. And I was like, well, I got to bring a telescope out, so I'm not going to fly. So I'm just going to drive. 28 hours, no big deal, by myself. It was quite an adventure just getting there. And man, but when I got there, I got to tell you, that was like one of the best feelings. I was like, man, I don't have to drive for a while.
How awesome is that, right?
It was so cool. So I love a good road trip. I'm already ready to go back out there again. As I'm driving out there, I'm like, there's no way I'm going to do this again. I'm going to fly next time. But now that I'm back, I'm like, it was really fun.
It's always what it is.
I missed that car. Yeah.
Dogs or cats?
Cats, absolutely. I'm not a dog person. I appreciate dogs, and I was a dog person, but I'm definitely a cat person.
A cat person.
Yeah, no doubt.
This one's going to be fun, and it's going to be easy for you to answer, but we need some context.
Tip.
Astronomy or astrology?
Yeah, astronomy is, those are definitely two different things. And I'm at a point where I'm more humorous about the two. I used to be very antagonistic towards astrology, because there's this common misconception that the two of the things are interchangeable and that we're equal and all that kind of stuff. But if you want to give the greatest insult to an astronomer, and you want to, it's always a fun thing to see how they react. If you call them an astrologer, almost universally they will look at you and stare daggers at you and may say some things. But what I find is funny is that astrologers have an opposite view of astronomers. They think like the two of us are like working together, like you guys are out there discovering stuff, and we're like taking that and showing people what they're doing. Aren't we a great team together, and like high fives and all this stuff? And we're just like, I don't want to have anything to do with you. I don't know you. I don't want to talk to you.
That's a bad friend from childhood. You don't want to go back and visit.
But they even still be like, yeah, we're buddies, right? Yeah.
So but you are becoming nicer in your other generations of life. You are, because you said, it's like, guys, you're fine. Like, you're wrong, but you're fine. Is that what it is?
It would be the one that I would be the most touchy about, I would say. Yeah, the only other one that would, the only other thing, like button pushing issue with me would be like if people think that I, as an astronomer, are part of some deep government conspiracy hiding stuff from them, which I think that's maybe I still laugh at that, because I'm like, government doesn't do anything for us. I mean, like the idea that we could hide something up in space is funny because of how many astronomers there are, how many amateur astronomers there are.
Somebody give up the secret.
Because astronomers are very, very competitive.
Yeah.
First person to discover it gets their name on it. Second person to discover it doesn't get squat.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
So there's no incentive for us to hide stuff. And amateur astronomers and professional astronomers, I say this with all due respect and love, have the biggest mouths and love writing stuff on the internet, and because they like sharing their information.
I guess you're proud of it, right?
Oh yeah. I mean, and so the idea that we could hide something is definitely a misnomer. Yeah.
Who's your favorite scientist?
Favorite scientist? Oh man, that is tough. I go back to some classics. I definitely like Galileo. Out of all the astronomers that I've studied from the past, he goes way back, 1600s. I would think that you would be able to have a modern conversation with him. Like you could be able to actually go get a beer and sit down and talk to him about stuff, because he had a mentality that is very unique for the ancient world of a very scientific mind. He was he was the real first scientist. And so I think he would be also very fun to hang out with. He'd have some pretty good stories. He'd have some good tales. The guy that I would be fascinated to study would be Kepler, Johannes Kepler, who's a contemporary of Galileo, completely different guy, completely different personality. Scientific, but not in the same way that we would think of today. Brilliant guy, but also a psychological basket case. He would he had daddy issues. He had insecurities. His mom was accused of being a witch. He had to defend his grandma from being burned at the stake as a witch.
Kepler had to do all this?
So the stuff that he had to go through, and the thing we know about Galileo and Kepler because they wrote so much, and they wrote about themselves so much. Kepler writes about himself in the third person a lot, which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
He's like, yes, this guy Kepler, and he did an astrology chart of himself. He's this fascinating guy, and this is a flawed individual. You can see it.
Maybe that's where some of the brilliant thought comes from.
And he was had a rough upbringing. His dad was a deadbeat dad. He grew up in poverty. He got a scholarship to go to university. So I would not probably be friends with him. Galileo and I would be buds, that's for sure. He would just be I would just be watching from afar and be like, oh man, Kepler, this guy is crazy.
What would you, if you got to ask one question to Galileo, what would you ask?
I would want to ask him did he really believe the Earth went around the sun? Give me the scoop, because all of his writing was leaning towards that, but he had to keep it on the down low, because the church comes in and says, yep, we can't have you saying the Earth goes around the sun, and they're gonna sick the Inquisition on him. And he pulled one of the greatest PR moves ever, where he goes into the church and he's got all this evidence, all this writing that's all pointing to the Earth's going around the sun, and he goes in there and with a straight face is like, wait, you think I think that? No, oh man, you read that wrong. No, this Earth's there, the sun's going around us. Man, oh, that's so funny. You thought that I thought that? No. And they were like, oh, all right, I guess we shouldn't torture him. All right. But I want to know what he really thinks. And I think I probably know what he really thinks.
Probably do. We talked in the podcast about this first 10,000 hours, but from 2000 to 2003 and this evolution of Dean. And so were there moments where you had what we find in business and athletes and usually anybody who achieves any decent level of success in their field? There's these moments where it was really tough. Do you have moments that you can reflect on, or even one, where when I say it was so hard, you had to have an attitude, you had to do whatever it took, no matter what?
I don't know if I had any of those really hardship moments where I had to fight through a lot of stuff, other than maybe the sheer volume of programs I did. I felt like I needed to do every single day I had to do a talk or a presentation or a go out to school. And there are some situations where you prepare, you get all ready for this, and you get into a situation an environment that's totally set up for you to not succeed, set up for you to fail, the way that the room's set up, or the way that the kids are coming in and situated, or discipline, or things like that. And I was trying to add up how many talks I've given, and I'm I have an estimate. I've given about 5,000 talks in my career of astronomy, and I've only had to stop 2 in 5,000 times. Once was a planetarium show where the kids were out of control and were starting to throw stuff, and I was like, okay, I better turn the lights back on and get this out of here. And the other one was a school where the teacher left the room, and I was like, yeah, and chaos ensued. And then I was just like, yeah, I'm gonna just pack up my stuff and get out.
Did you leave before the teacher came back?
No, the teacher came back in, and I was like, this isn't working out here. Like, are you gonna be in here? And he was like, yeah. I was like, I gave him like another couple minutes, and then I was like, yeah, all right, let's pack it up.
Yeah, and you're like, hey man, you're just not in this thing.
But yeah, 2 out of 5,000 I'll take is pretty good. But I remember those 2, that's for sure. And it's like, it's one of those things where, yeah, I'm like seeing like almost every situation, every kind of setup there could be, and I mean, even recently there was one where I did this program at a library, and you never know what you're going to get into, who's going to be at these talks, what audience is going to be. And this one, a whopping 2 people showed up for it. So mom and her kid showed up for this talk. Like, I'm prepared for like a group of 50 or 40 or something like that. But man, I gave him one heck of a talk.
But how special is that? Everybody in our career, we have that moment.
Yeah.
And if you rise to the occasion, because what's your purpose when you go there?
Right.
Regardless of how many people, what's your purpose?
Yeah, my purpose is to impact somebody.
Right.
Like show them this way of looking at the universe, what's out there, and yeah, I
how
mean,
special it probably was for them.
Yeah, that's what I felt. Yeah, I mean, because it's like I had all these. The topic was comets and meteors, so I had all these actual like meteorites, these big pieces of rock that fell from space, and I'm like, here, hold this. And the kid's like, whoa, like, here, hold this. And like, so they got this really cool one-on-one moment. So yeah, it like in my mind, I'm thinking, well, boy, that was, for 2 people, is that all worth it? But yeah, you still got to do that. And it was almost better because it was like just a conversation. Like, I just sat, like, instead of standing, I just sat and like, we're just sitting like this. And, but it's one of those things where I've learned, yeah, and this is what a lot of educators do is, you have to be super flexible.
Right?
Yeah.
And just show up and just get it done.
Yep.
Do you feel like you're somebody who's really gone all in with your career? Do you feel like that you've had to make a lot of sacrifices to perform the way you have over 25 years?
I think the biggest thing is a lot of nights. So I've been working a lot of nights and a lot of weekends. That's the kind of thing. So, it's a thing of, could there have been other things I could have done with that time, other hobbies that I could have gotten into. I joke and I tell people I don't have any other outside interests, which is not completely inaccurate, but I think that if there was a secondary thing that I would do, the thing is, I can't picture what else I would do. We were talking in our interview that I'm going to live to be 105 years old and I'm going to see an eclipse in 2077. But it did cross my mind as like, well, all right, I'm not even halfway there. Do I have a second act? Is there a second half of my life that I want to do something else in? And I'm still thinking about it. I know astronomy is going to be part of my life for the rest of my life. Mm-hmm. I would like to find some other kind of things in there to round it out. And I think the thing that's going to be probably closest is, working with the national parks and that kind of stuff. I have a real fondness for national parks, and they're doing a lot of great night sky programs too, which I'm helping to consult with too, to help bring in some night sky programs. So doing a little hiking while I'm younger, and save some astronomy for when I'm 100 plus too. So
a couple more questions. What's your idea of regrets?
Whoa, yeah. See, I don't have a lot of regrets. That's the thing. I'm just so, I still feel so lucky that I found this as a career, as a job, as a calling. It's hard to regrets as far as, I don't think I really have that many. That's the thing. I've had a lucky experience with the stars. They've been guiding me fine.
That's good. Don't churn any up if you don't have them already, right?
Yeah, the only, if I were to make something there, would be that I tend in my early years to be rather thrifty, so it still seeps into my my modern self, is that like, oh yeah, like, if I could save a couple bucks, I'll do certain things. And if I would regret anything, I'd be like, I should splurge more. That's what I should do, is I should splurge more.
Well, maybe it's a lesson you've learned and now you do.
I do. I definitely, I don't rough it as quite as often as I used to, although I still appreciate, road tripping it in my little car. And
that's awesome.
Yeah.
What do you think the best advice, because you are an educator, that's what you are, right?
Yeah.
You have your education degree and you're like, I'm going to be a high school history teacher, and you found the astronomy thing. What's the best piece of advice in the modern age now, 2023 sitting here, that you could give to, whether it's a middle school or a high schooler? What's the best piece of advice on your mind that you can give to them that really can make an impact, that gives them some perspective about their life?
Yeah, I think that it's something like we talked about this earlier about, genuineness, I think is such a powerful force. And I think what's really made my education career take off is kind of like being secure in your own skin. So first having like yourself taken care of and be like, okay, this is what I'm good at. This is what I'm qualified to do. This is what I like to do. I think that's like really important. And I remember having this kind of philosophy a couple years in, out of college and that kind of stuff, is that like, if you can do what you want to do, what you should do, and have an impact on people, then that's the secret. I mean, that's the secret, is just doing, having those things be the same thing, what you want to do and what you should do. I think that takes you a long way.
It's awesome. What is a question that I should ask Dean that I didn't?
Man, I don't know. We've been talking like 3 hours. Let me think.
Of all those 5,000 education moments you've had through all the interviews, all the conversations, what's the thing to you that stood out, like the most fascinating? Like, wow, okay, that, or something no one ever asked you that you think's intriguing. What's the question? What is it?
Boy, I don't know. I wish I knew. Like, because I don't know the meaning of life. I don't know the end of the universe.
Because those are big questions.
I don't know if we have aliens or not. Yeah.
You're not big on conspiracy theories.
Not big on conspiracy theories. I don't know what's at Area 51. So
astrology drives you crazy.
Astrology drives me crazy. Yeah. Yeah, because I don't think that I have like this exceptional like insight into life and all that kind of stuff, but it's I tend to like not overthink stuff too when it comes to that kind of stuff. There's this idea of like self-help books and reading those that are really helpful to a lot of people. For me, I can't do it. Like, I'm just like this is overthinking it in a lot of ways. So if there's a philosophy that I've learned that I could impart, it would be that trust yourself, and you when you find something that's your thing, that's your calling, you'll know it. And if you feel that, dive in all the way. That's the only thing I can say is you'll know, trust your own instincts on this of what your thing would be. Because if I would have ended up being a high school history teacher, I'm sure I would have.
You would have crushed it.
I would have made it work. Would it have been my calling? I don't know. But I think somehow I was going to find this one way or the other.
You would have crushed the education piece.
Yeah.
I think, this self-help book thing, it's intriguing to me because whatever makes someone think they need to read it, they kind of already have the answer.
Yeah. I think so, yeah.
Right? Because if you're searching for something, if you have the idea of something you're searching for, you kind of know. And it's and what I think about too is, I'm like, hey, just try to find the confidence inside.
Yeah.
Try to elevate your self-esteem. Just go out and do something where you can prove to yourself, like, hey, you can do things you haven't done before. Believe in yourself. Go out and conquer these, I don't know, these mountains. Go, take the long hike. Do the things that a lot of people doubt and, are judgmental and don't think you can. And go do it. Because I think that's the piece that the self-help books are filling, is this lack of confidence we have in ourselves.
Yeah.
And I hate that.
Yeah, I know, and it definitely works for a lot of people because they haven't had somebody that gives that voice to them, like to say like, oh, like I know that, but I haven't like heard it said in certain ways. So, but
I hate that they need it.
Yeah, and absolutely right, and it's hard to get through that, and so some people are like, they look at my job and they're like, like, boy, you're so lucky you found something that you love to do. And in my mind, I'm like, why everybody should do this? Like, and I know not everybody can be like an astronomer, not everybody can do like you. There's certain things, realities you have to do to make ends meet and to get through things like this. But I know for myself, if it wasn't astronomy, it would have been something else, because I would not put up with
mediocrity.
I wouldn't put up with doing something I didn't like. I mean, that's part of the thing.
But then when you found what you like, you went all in. Because I bet in your field, we're not going to name anyone, and who cares? But there are probably people in your field that they aren't all in.
Right. Yep. Yeah.
Right.
And you can tell. That's the thing. Is that's the biggest thing I can tell the difference between somebody who's genuinely loving it and who's just putting in the time. Yeah, you can tell that. And but yeah, I think that's the thing, is that that's the one thing I've learned about myself, is that I wasn't gonna settle for that no matter what field I was gonna be in. I was gonna do that, and even if that meant like I would just be unemployed for a while until I found that thing, I wouldn't go into something I didn't want to do, which is maybe a unique perspective, maybe a unique place to be in, but cool thing to figure out about yourself.
And to understand, right?
Yeah.
Who's your hero?
Man, that's really tough. I've definitely had some influences early on in my education career. There's people I worked with at the Cincinnati Parks, which are really influential to me. Seeing how other people talk to students and talk to adults, and there's a couple people that I worked for with the parks that were great. They just like you'd see them talking to students and kids, and like in this really unique way. Like, because there's this way that adults talk to kids is like, talk down to them or
condescending.
But it's like the way that you can like do that. If you can figure out just how to talk to everybody like a person, like a one-on-one, that was really influential. Beyond that, oh man,
that you don't have one is okay.
Not really. That's the thing, that's
who's the most influential person in your life? Is it one of those two, or is there someone else that you think about, or maybe that you're like, what, they made a big impact?
This is going to sound really weird, and I really like watching athletes at their best, like. And I would never call like heroes like sports figures that I watch, not necessarily, but what I can appreciate of people that are like the top of their sport. There's something about the people that do that at this high level that is, I would say there's a lot of sports figures that I look up to in a lot of ways that way. And there's not a lot of crossover between sports and astronomy, but it's seeing people that are driven by something like this cause. So whether if it's like football, whether if it's like, they have that in their lives. And I've been finding myself relating more to that as the years go on, which is really interesting, I think, in a way, because I mean, I'm not out there like Joe Burrow and throwing a football and winning the Super Bowl for the Bengals, which is going to happen. But I can appreciate the elite sports athletes have that same mentality of following their passion, and I can even like differentiate. Like I could see people being interviewed on sports radio and sports talk shows, and I can.
Is it an it factor that you think that person has that they may have? Because what you said is you in your circumstance, whatever you chose to do,
Yeah.
you wouldn't have settled.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? And so is that more indicative of just that person? Because maybe Joe Burrow, maybe whatever he did, even if it wasn't sports, that, what I would say, killer mentality you can see that guy has.
Yeah. Yeah.
I just feel it from him.
Yeah. Yeah. I think so.
Would he carry that into some? Probably.
Yeah.
So the question is, are we just lucky hitting the DNA lottery when a human has that? Or can that be learned, taught, educated? What can we do with that?
Yeah. Man, this is really going on a tangent. I'm probably, but
What do you think? Yeah, what's your opinion on it?
So this is, I don't know, you've really pulled something out of here, but I guess another pseudo weird hero in my life is Batman. This is so ridiculous. I'm saying this out loud, but like when you say that, it's like, yeah, is it taught or is it innate?
Right.
And I gotta say, I love Batman because he learned all this stuff. Like he's a self-taught guy, you know, and a fictional character. I realize that, but I do think that's that's how I do things. I feel like I could learn anything if I set my mind to it, and where that comes from, I don't know. But
because see, that is the piece, and if we can figure that out, because this is what's this is wild that, you know, as we have this conversation, this comes out. So you know, my significant other, we've been together for a long time, and she's in education.
Okay.
When she was growing up, she loves the stars, man. Astronomy is in her heart, but she wanted to be an astronaut, and she's brilliant. Okay. At some point in her life, she just sent me this text. She was at a conference last week. She remembers a time when she was a child. She grew up locally in one of the River City schools. She was invited to go with all the smart kids. She didn't view herself that way, but she was invited to some sort of a science camp where people were introduced to these things. Very few kids. And she went there, and she felt like she wasn't as smart as them.
Yeah.
But she's brilliant. And at that moment, she didn't continue. So I have no doubt that she could have.
Right. Yep. Yep.
And what she sent to me from the conference, she was just at a women's leadership conference in Kentucky for education. And she just sent me a screenshot. I'm at a conference in New York for real estate. And she sent me this conference, and it said, it was talking about girls. 23% of girls in elementary school give up on the thing that they're dreaming of because they don't believe they can. 30-something% of girls in middle school, 48% of girls in high school, because they don't believe they're smart enough.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that's the thing, like that's the education piece. It's not 2 + 2 is 4, because if you believe in yourself, you can learn that.
Right. Right. Yeah, no, and I think that is a common thing with a lot of people, and it's hard for me to hear that too, because that's so alien in my mind, and I don't know what my upbringing was, what happened, that like I never had a doubter inside of me, like
Me either.
Like I think it's like, you know, all this stuff could happen, so whatever forces came together to give me that kind of voice inside is. And I do realize that that's not how everybody is.
So maybe that's your second act, man. I mean, because if that's something, because I just know if you would meet her, she's brilliant.
Yeah, yeah.
And so, and you would be disappointed because you love your field.
Yeah.
You'd be disappointed, like, oh my God.
Yeah.
That industry missed out on something.
Yeah.
And so that's unfortunate, because
I know, yeah.
I do want people to, because if you realize that you want to do something that young, I never had that feeling.
Yeah.
You found it at 22.
Yeah.
But I didn't have that thing. And for someone to not have the confidence, to not have the belief in themselves that they can do that thing, that's disappointing.
Yeah, and maybe I could go back to my dad. One of his common phrases was, ask. What's the worst thing they're going to say? Is no. And I always that's like part of my thing. Is like, yeah, well, I'll just ask, and they say no. Okay, well, I tried. So you can still take no for an answer, but it's still asking that question, being open to asking the question, I think is kind of.
We just figured out Dean's second act. Help all the young folks in our country, as many as you can, help them realize to gain the confidence to go all in for the thing they want to do.
Ooh, this could be it. Maybe we got it for my last half of my 52 more years of second act. Yeah, we can do that. All right, sounds good.
It's awesome, man. Thank you for this again.